In 1913, as Carl Jung descended into what he later called his confrontation with the unconscious, he encountered a vision so terrifying it nearly broke him. He saw himself standing before a massive door in the depths of his own psyche. Behind it, he knew, lived everything he feared most about himself: his rage, his weakness, his capacity for cruelty, his forbidden desires. His hand trembled on the handle. Every fiber of his being screamed to run. But Jung understood something that would revolutionize psychology. The door you're most afraid to open is the only door that leads to freedom. He turned the handle. And what emerged from that darkness wasn't the monster he expected. It was a part of himself he'd been running from his entire life. A part that, once acknowledged, transformed from enemy into ally. Jung would later write, "Your worst fear about yourself is not that you are weak or broken. Your worst fear is that you are powerful beyond measure, and that power terrifies you because accepting it would require you to abandon every comfortable lie you've been living." That revelation would become the foundation of shadow work, the most challenging and most liberating psychological journey you can undertake. The experience nearly destroyed Jung's career. Colleagues whispered he was having a psychotic break. His mentor Freud had already abandoned him. But Jung persisted, night after night, descending into the terrifying depths of his own unconscious, documenting everything in what would become the Red Book. What he discovered there changed not just his life, but our entire understanding of human psychology. He found that the things we fear most intensely, the qualities we most desperately hide, are never what we think they are. The rage you're terrified of isn't just rage. The weakness you're ashamed of isn't just weakness. The darkness you run from isn't just darkness. They're messengers from the deepest parts of yourself, carrying gifts you've refused to receive. And the price of that refusal isn't safety. It's a half-lived life, controlled by the very things you won't acknowledge. If you've ever been paralyzed by a fear you can't explain, if anxiety grips you in situations that shouldn't trigger it, if you sabotage yourself just when success feels possible, you're living what Jung called the shadow problem. The fear you feel isn't about external threats. It's about internal truth you're refusing to face. Most people spend their entire lives running from this truth, building elaborate defenses, creating personas that hide what they most fear to see. But Jung discovered something revolutionary. The fear isn't the problem. Your refusal to face it is. And that refusal doesn't protect you. It guarantees that the very thing you fear will control every major decision you make. This isn't self-help philosophy. This is depth psychology, backed by everything we now know about the unconscious mind, trauma processing, and psychological integration. You're about to learn what Jung discovered in his descent. Your worst fear about yourself contains your greatest power. But accessing that power requires doing what most people will never do, turning toward the darkness instead of away from it. This knowledge is dangerous, not because it will harm you, but because it will destroy every comfortable illusion you've been hiding behind. And once those illusions shatter, you can't put them back together. You'll be free, but freedom is terrifying to people who've spent their lives in cages they built themselves. Are you ready for that? Because there's no going back once you understand what I'm about to reveal. Principle 1. The shadow isn't your enemy, it's your disowned power. Most people misunderstand Jung's concept of the shadow. They think it's the bad parts of themselves, their anger, selfishness, cruelty. But Jung's insight was far more unsettling. The shadow is everything you rejected to become acceptable. Yes, it contains your rage and darkness, but it also contains your power, creativity, sexuality, confidence, every quality you were taught to suppress because it threatened the people around you. The shadow isn't your enemy. It's the vault where you locked away everything you needed to be whole. Dr. James Hollis, contemporary Jungian analyst, explains, "We don't just repress what's socially unacceptable, we repress what's threatening too." Our false self.
A woman raised to be nice will shadow her legitimate anger and boundary setting. A man taught to be strong will shadow his vulnerability and need for connection. What you fear most about yourself is often exactly what you most need to reclaim. This is why shadow work feels so dangerous. You're not confronting evil within yourself. You're confronting power you've been forbidden to claim. Consider Rachel, who sought Jungian analysis for debilitating anxiety. She described herself as caring, selfless, always putting others first. But her anxiety was unrelenting. Through dream work, a terrifying image emerged. A savage, wild woman tearing through everything with fury. Rachel was horrified. "That's not me. I'm not like that." But her analyst asked a crucial question. What if that fury isn't something wrong with you? What if it's your power trying to break free from a lifetime of being suppressed? Rachel had shadowed not just anger, but her entire capacity for self-advocacy. The savage woman was her disowned strength. Once she began integrating that energy, setting boundaries, saying no, claiming space, her anxiety dissolved. The fear wasn't about becoming a monster. It was about admitting she'd been living as a ghost. The practice here is radical. For 1 week, notice every quality you judge harshly in others. Write them down. Now ask, could I possess this quality in a form I don't recognize? The things that trigger you most intensely are showing you your shadow. They're revealing power you've disowned. This isn't comfortable. You'll resist. That resistance is the fear Jung warned about. Not fear of darkness, but fear of your own magnitude. But shadow integration is only the first layer. The second truth is even more disturbing. Principle 2. Your fear is a doorway, not a wall. Jung discovered something that still unsettles people. Fear doesn't block your path, it marks it. The intensity of your fear is directly proportional to the importance of what lies beyond it. You're not randomly afraid. You're strategically afraid. Your psyche is using fear to protect you from a truth so transformative that encountering it will destroy who you think you are.
This is why most people never cross the threshold. They mistake the guardian for the destination, believing fear is saying stay away when it's actually saying this is it, this is where you need to go. Modern neuroscience confirms Jung's intuition. Dr. Joseph Ledoux's research on the amygdala shows that fear responses are often triggered not by actual danger, but by pattern recognition gone wrong. Your brain is protecting you from a threat that existed in the past, not the present. When you feel paralyzing fear about intimacy, public speaking, or claiming your worth, you're not responding to current reality. You're responding to childhood wounds that created the belief you're not safe being seen, heard, or powerful. The fear isn't showing you danger ahead, it's showing you trauma behind. Jung worked with a patient who had recurring nightmares of drowning. Traditional analysis focused on death anxiety, but Jung probed deeper. What would it mean if drowning wasn't about dying, but about letting go? The patient realized his fear wasn't of physical death. It was of ego death, of surrendering the controlled, defended version of himself he'd maintained for decades. The dream wasn't warning him away from water. It was calling him toward psychological immersion, toward the depths where his authentic self was waiting. Once he stopped running from the dream and instead asked, "What wants to die?" he discovered it was his false persona. And beneath that persona was freedom he'd never imagined. Here's your practice. Identify the fear that most controls your life. Not surface anxiety, but the deep dread you organize your existence around. Then ask, not how do I eliminate this fear, but what is on the other side of this fear that I'm not ready to face? The answer will reveal what Jung called the treasure hard to attain, the part of yourself you've been protecting from your own sight, because encountering it would require you to change everything. Yet, even understanding the shadow and facing your fear isn't enough. The third principle reveals the trap most people fall into. Principle 3.
Your worst fear is that you're already who you're afraid to become. This is Jung's most precious.
You're not afraid of becoming something terrible. You're afraid you already are. The rage you fear unleashing, it's already operating through passive aggression, resentment, self-sabotage. The weakness you despise, it's already controlling you through your inability to say no, your desperate need for approval. The selfishness you reject, it's already running your life. You're just calling it something else. What you fear isn't a future possibility. It's a current reality you won't admit. Dr. Marie-Louise von Franz, Jung's closest collaborator, observed, "People don't fear the shadow because it's foreign. They fear it because it's familiar. At some level, they know it's already operating. The terror isn't what if I become that, it's what if everyone already sees what I'm pretending I'm not." This is why shadow confrontation feels like death. You're not discovering something new about yourself. You're admitting something you've always known and spent your life denying. Michael, a successful executive, sought analysis for inexplicable panic attacks. He described himself as confident, decisive, always in control. But his dreams told a different story. Images of himself as weak, cowering, desperate for approval. He dismissed these as just dreams until his analyst confronted him. What if these images aren't fears of what you might become, but honest reflections of what you already are, beneath the performance? Michael's panic attacks were breakthrough attempts. His psyche trying to force him to acknowledge that his confidence was a brittle defense against the terror of being seen as vulnerable. He wasn't afraid of weakness. He was exhausted from pretending he wasn't already vulnerable. Once he admitted that reality, the panic dissolved. He was already who he feared becoming, and it was fine. The practice: write down your worst fear about yourself. Then write, "What if I already am this, and the only real problem is my refusal to admit it?" Notice the relief that comes with that admission. Not because you're embracing failure, but because you're stopping the exhausting pretense. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That includes the parts you've labeled unacceptable. But this revelation leads to an even deeper question Jung wrestled with his entire life. Principle 4. The fear you won't face will control everything you do. Jung discovered that unconfronted fear doesn't stay dormant. It becomes the invisible architect of your life. Every major decision you make, every relationship you enter, every opportunity you avoid is secretly dictated by the fear you won't acknowledge. You think you're choosing your career, your partner, your path. But if you haven't faced your deepest fear, you're not choosing anything. You're running and calling it direction. The shadow you won't integrate doesn't disappear. It becomes your puppet master. This is what Jung meant by, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. People blame circumstances, other people, bad luck for how their lives unfold. But Jung knew, if you keep finding yourself in the same painful patterns, it's not fate. It's fear you're refusing to face, manufacturing situations that force you to avoid what terrifies you. The partner who betrays you, why did you choose someone untrustworthy? The career that crushes you, why did you pick a path that denies your true talents? The friend who exploits you, why do you keep accepting relationships without reciprocity? The answer is always the same. These situations protect you from confronting something more terrifying than betrayal, failure, or exploitation. They protect you from encountering your authentic self. Jung analyzed a woman who repeatedly attracted unavailable men. Surface interpretation, bad judgment. But Jung saw deeper. What if your choice of unavailable partners isn't a mistake, but a strategy? What if you're choosing people who can't truly see you because you're terrified of being fully seen? She recoiled, then wept. She'd spent decades blaming men for her unhappiness while secretly orchestrating relationships that could never threaten her with actual intimacy. Her worst fear wasn't abandonment, it was being known. And unconscious fear was writing her entire romantic life. Your practice? Map your life's major patterns. Where do you keep finding yourself? Not surface events, but deep themes. Abandonment, invisibility, failure, conflict. These aren't accidents. They're the stage set your unconfronted fear constructs. Then ask, what would I have to face if these patterns stopped? That answer reveals the fear controlling everything. Yet even this profound recognition isn't the deepest layer. Jung's final insight is the most challenging of all. Principle 5. Your greatest power lives in your deepest fear. This is Jung's revolutionary gift. What you're most afraid of isn't weakness, it's power, so immense that claiming it would shatter every small identity you've built. People aren't terrified of their rage because rage is dangerous. They're terrified because legitimate anger would require them to stop being nice and start demanding respect. They're not afraid of their vulnerability because vulnerability is shameful. They're afraid because authentic vulnerability would require them to stop performing invulnerability and risk genuine connection. Your deepest fear protects you not from danger, but from transformation, so complete that you'd become unrecognizable to everyone who needed you to stay small. This is what Marianne Williamson captured, often attributed to Nelson Mandela. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Jung understood this decades earlier. The shadow doesn't just contain your darkness. It contains the blinding light you've been told to dim. And that light, once released, makes demands on your life that comfort and safety can't survive. Jung worked with an artist who couldn't create. Years of therapy focused on overcoming creative blocks. But Jung reframed. What if your block isn't inability, but refusal? What if you're not afraid you can't create, but afraid of what creating would reveal? That you have a gift that demands to be shared, that would require you to step into visibility, vulnerability, and the terrifying responsibility of your own talent. The artist broke down. She'd been hiding for years, not from failure, but from success, because success would mean she couldn't keep pretending she was ordinary. Her greatest fear wasn't being mediocre, it was being extraordinary. The practice here is the most challenging. Identify the life you would live if you weren't afraid. Not a fantasy, but the honest answer to, what would I do if I fully claimed my power? Then ask, what terrifies me about living that life? The answer reveals your deepest fear and your greatest untapped potential. Most people never do this because the answer demands they stop playing small. Jung knew, the biggest tragedy isn't that we face our fears and fail. It's that we never face them and die with our gifts still locked inside. Integration and practice, the shadow reclamation protocol. You now understand Jung's radical teaching. Your worst fear isn't about what you might become. It's about what you already are, what you're refusing to face, and what you're not willing to claim. But how do you actually do this work? How do you move from understanding to integration? Welcome to the Shadow Reclamation Protocol, Jung's method adapted for systematic transformation. Week 1 to 2, the Fear Inventory. Write down every major fear you carry, not surface worries, but deep existential dreads. Then, for each fear, ask 3 questions. 1. What would it mean about me if this fear came true? 2. What part of myself am I protecting by maintaining this fear? 3. What would I have to admit or change if I stopped being afraid of this? These questions reveal the hidden function of your fear. It's not protecting you from danger, it's protecting you from truth. Week 3 to 4, the Shadow Dialogue. Jung practiced active imagination, conscious conversation with unconscious contents. Choose your most terrifying shadow quality. Personify it, give it a voice. Then ask, why are you here? What do you want me to know? What gift are you bringing? This feels bizarre at first, but Jung discovered that shadow elements aren't enemies. They're exiled parts of yourself trying to come home. Dialogue transforms them from threats into allies. Week 5 to 8, the Integration Experiments. Start expressing what you've forbidden. If you've shadowed anger, practice setting one boundary per day. If you've shadowed vulnerability, share one authentic feeling per week. If you've shadowed power, take one decisive action without seeking approval. Start small. The goal isn't dramatic change, it's neurological rewiring. You're teaching your brain that what you feared isn't dangerous, it's liberating. Week 9-12. The Life Audit. Review major patterns in your life. Where has unconfronted fear been controlling your choices? Then ask, if I stopped organizing my life around avoiding this fear, what would change? Make one change based on that answer. This is terrifying because it means stepping into the life you've been protecting yourself from, the life where you're fully yourself. The ethical framework. Shadow work isn't licensed to act out every impulse. Integration doesn't mean expressing your rage by screaming at people or claiming your power through domination. Jung was clear. The shadow must be integrated consciously, not unconsciously acted out. The goal is to acknowledge what's there, understand its origin, and then choose how to express it in ways that serve your wholeness rather than fragment you further. The transformation promise. People who complete this protocol don't just overcome fear, they transform their relationship with it entirely. Fear becomes data, not destiny. Shadow becomes source, not enemy. And the life that emerges is unrecognizable to the person who started the journey. You won't be fixed or healed in conventional terms. You'll be whole, which means containing everything, light and dark, power and vulnerability, integrated into conscious selfhood. Jung called this individuation. It's not comfortable, but it's freedom. Return with me to 1913. Jung stands before that door in the depths of his psyche. Behind it waits everything he fears most about himself. Every fiber of his being screams to run, but he knows the only way out is through. He opens the door, and what emerges isn't the monster he expected. It's truth. Painful, terrifying, liberating truth. He sees the parts of himself he's been running from, his grandiosity and his weakness, his brilliance and his pettiness, his capacity for both profound love, profound cruelty. He sees that he's been living a performance, hiding from his own depths, and in that moment of recognition, something shifts. The qualities don't change, but his relationship to them does. They're no longer enemies to defeat, they're aspects to integrate. Jung would spend the rest of his life teaching what he learned in that confrontation. Your worst fear about yourself is both true and irrelevant. True because you do contain darkness, weakness, selfishness, everything you've been taught to hide. Irrelevant because those qualities, once acknowledged and integrated, lose their power to control you. The shadow you won't face becomes your master. The shadow you integrate becomes your ally. So here's the question you must answer. The question Jung's entire body of work demands you face. What door are you refusing to open? What quality are you terrified to acknowledge? What power are you afraid to claim? Because on the other side of that door isn't the destruction you fear. It's the life you were meant to live. The person you were born to be is waiting in the darkness you won't enter. And that person isn't broken or wrong or dangerous. That person is you. Whole, integrated, finally free from the exhausting performance of being someone you're not. The door is waiting. Jung opened his. The question is, will you open yours? Because I can promise you this, the fear won't go away by avoiding it. The shadow won't disappear by denying it. And the life you're meant to live won't emerge by continuing to hide. This is Jung's dark truth about your worst fear. It's not the enemy of your freedom, it's the guardian of it. And the only way to freedom is straight through the terror you've spent your life avoiding. In our next exploration, we'll reveal what happens after you open that door, how to integrate what you discover, how to live with the truth about yourself, and how to build a life where shadow isn't enemy but ally, where fear becomes compass rather than cage. That's the journey Jung completed, and it's available to you if you're brave enough to begin. The door stands before you. Your hand is on the handle. What will you choose?